Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to go ahead and do some sifting, but at the same time I'm going to talk about potential worm business. What's the positives, what's the negatives, how can we do this and have a somewhat of a successful end point. In other words, can we get something more than just money from this? I'm going to discuss this in this video. See you in a sec. Alright guys, I'm going to be sifting, okay? And while I'm sifting, I'm going to be talking about, some of you are looking at a worm business to, I don't know, become a millionaire or something. It's not going to happen. First and foremost. Now, can you make some money? I would imagine so, but you got to structure it the right way. That's what I want to show and share with you guys some ideas. Basically I've created a website, which there's nothing there right now yet, depending on when you see this. uberworms.com. Now the reason why Uber is because Uber essentially means supreme. I forgot my paintbrush. So you got to have a product that's exceptional. You see, McDonald's has a franchise, yeah, and every McDonald's burgers taste the same, essentially because they've got a system. So, little worm in there. So you need to have somewhat of a system. So Uber, first and foremost, I do Uber Eats. So Uber actually has the largest taxi service without owning a taxi. Okay. And they also do Uber delivery, which is what I do, and that is the largest restaurant essentially without having a restaurant, owning a restaurant. So the way I see it, and that's why you called it Uber Worms, because I want to do the same kind of thing. So essentially what I'd like to see is the biggest compost worm company and products in the world. Yeah. Have I sold a worm yet? Nope. But I'm giving you guys essentially the plan. It's a little bit wet. All right. I see some little guys everywhere. See, these cameras isn't the best, but there's still a lot of little guys. But I'm going to keep sifting. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so let me explain again. So Uber Worms. First off, there's a lot of misinformation being expressed. And so I want to have a worm company, worm compost company, that similar to Uber is worldwide and is made up of its members, which would be potentially you. So instead of having, a local area and then shipping nationwide, what you would do is have many different people doing the same thing and it be localized. So one problem with it, or downfall with the worm business, is this transporting of the worms and the potentiality of them dying in the process. So I'd like to eliminate that, meaning you should deliver the worms. So the customer still pays, for example, the $10 or $15 shipping, but that goes into your pocket, yeah? So they'll be essentially, how it will work, what I'm thinking is, they'll be dealing directly on the website with uberworms.com. You as an individual will be on there, and it will be pointing towards the area that the customer's in. So if you're in New Jersey, for example, whoever's in New Jersey or closest to will get the order if they have the inventory. So you can get involved with a little bit, and we'll just shift over to the next person on the list. So if you don't have enough, then it'll just shift over to the next one until you develop an inventory. Now, the negative of a worm business is this, from what I see. It's a one-time order. So when people order worms from you, it'll be one time. They won't order any more worms unless something happens to the worms or they want to grow it out. Okay? What I see on YouTube is a lot of conversation about, how to raise worms. So you can order the worms from them. But, like, for example, my worms I ordered once. I'm not going to be ordering anymore because now I've got a business going. Essentially, well, I've got the reproduction part of it going. So I won't need any more worms. So essentially, it's a one-time purchase. Because we're dealing with individuals that are potentially doing this for like a hobby of some sort, or they want to participate in conquering the food waste problem. But in truth, they'll end up doing what they see and buying products to raise the worms and not using it for the worms' real reason, which is to compost food waste. Okay? I don't know why we're getting a lot of little cocoons. Well, the cocoons depend on the size of the worm. So the smaller that they are, the smaller the cocoon. And this is not a lot of food, so they're just basically going through over and over the castings. So where was I? I forget. Oh, okay. So basically what we want to do is change the way things are looked at. What we want to do is develop the market, okay? So instead of selling to people that are interested in having, like, the very few that are interested in doing it, because the reason isn't really being fully shared, okay? People aren't really talking about, composting your food, getting rid of your food waste. It's not really it now. People get interested in, look, they're growing worms. Awesome. Wouldn't this be awesome? But many do this, then they don't. Because they realize just how much, like, who wants this unless there's a reason for this? Right? Got a lot of little cocoons up in here. But this is my composting area. My breeders are over there. A lot of little cocoons coming through. They're easier to pick, though, once they go through the castings. Anyway, I'm just going to keep talking. You guys can follow along. So this is the end product. Here is the, what the worms have put together, packaged in essence. Okay? Derives from newspaper, cardboard, and food waste, but not like everybody else is doing, which can potentially wet your bin, but that's okay, as long as you're able to manage that, that's fine. So essentially it's a one-time deal, then you're looking for someone else. So what I'd like to do with Uber homegrownworms.com is educate people on how to minimize food waste, because it's a hot topic. So that's a positive. Right now, with the global blah 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 crisis, climate change narrative, okay, it's a topic where people are getting much more interested. But isn't it interesting that very few cities have organic composting in place? So are some people interested in paying for that? Potentially. I'm not looking at that per se. What I'm looking at is getting people involved with one of the elements of the process, being at number one, bokashi, and then maybe that gets passed on to someone else who takes it to a different level. I'm not sure, but what I am sure of is you have to educate people to do this. So now let's look at the market, okay? If you're looking for people to convert their food waste into product that they can grow their vegetables, highly nutritious vegetables, how many people would be interested in that? And how and what does that entail? Well, worms is part of that process. So now what you got going on is you're educating people on how to do it. And you want everyone in your neighborhood to do it. So now the market is everyone that eats, that lives beside you. That's pretty big. Everyone that eats should be doing this. Now you think, well, how many people around you actually grow worms? I don't think you probably know, not even one. Right? Why? Well, because it's not part of the process. And what they see on YouTube land isn't very appealing. So that means a lot of people are not doing anything to solve the problem. And the problem again is wasting and not growing your own stuff, believing in the narrative that they've got your back. And that is slowly changing as well. People are learning. So people are going to want to get interested in this kind of process of like, how do I start eliminating food waste? And that's where bokashi comes in. That's the first introduction, first process by which they get introduced. Just let me check this for a sec. 1/8, yeah. My worms are smaller right now, so a lot of cocoons are smaller. So, again, so how does this work into the worm business? Well, you got to have a process in place, and one of them is bokashi. Gets them doing something that they can see results right away. Okay, and so that they are feeling like they are doing something, and they are, by keeping stuff out of the landfill. That's where I started, and I've been doing bokashi for, 3-4 years. Okay, so that's a beginning point. And then we take the bokashi, what do we do with it? Well, we put it in a compost pile, it's an accelerator, or we can take it to the next level and start doing this, or we could give it to someone that is doing this. And what are they going to do with it? Well, they're going to feed the worms and or create a product with it. And I'm actually working on that product where you can now, or we will be able to sell something. Now I'm going to show you guys. This is just a sneak peek. What do you guys see there? Do you think that this is fungally dominated? See, typically speaking, you have to have a microscope to see fungi. Do you need a microscope here to see this fungi? Nope. You don't. And I want to show you what I'm doing is testing quantities, etc. So what do I want to do? Well, I want to sell. The next step in this process, the end step is to sell this, okay, to worm growers that we're going to share. But as well, I'm going to test this to see if this can also apply to gardeners, people growing vegetables, okay? There's a process. If you haven't subscribed, you want to subscribe, because this is going to be that loop of taking food waste and then converting it to fungally dominated, which is, again, the key word when it comes to the conversation about what good compost entails and what we're lacking in our soils. Okay, fungally dominated. So you got to go with the flow of how things are working. I'm not doing this for look, oh look, this is a nice little hobby. I like to play with worms. No, I'm doing this because I see the full potential of this and that very few are actually participating in this. So how do we introduce people into this? Well, we start off with a starter. Here's how I'm going to do it, and here's how I want everyone that's involved. And I don't have an email or anything up on that thing. Maybe in the description you might see something to connect if you're interested. And now how it's going to, essentially what I'm thinking of doing is like this. 5%, it'll be a monthly thing. And 5% of the income. So if you're selling the worms, 5% will go to uberworms.com. Okay? And I'll use it for myself or for whatever purposes, whatever I'm thinking of doing it. 5%. And a monthly fee of, for example, $25 per month to be part of the network. All right? So every month you'll pay $25 to be part of the network, to be a participant. And then 5%. So basically it's like a franchise fee and then a licensing fee. Something like this. And why that's like that is because, well, number one, I want to dedicate more time in doing this. And it's my idea. Number two, I'm not going to be rich in this. It's not about being rich, but it is about essentially coming together with one purpose of marketing, or shall I say, what's the word I'm looking for? Not marketing, but educating people. Educating people on the way to do this in a very clean, productive way. And I've got a process that I'm thinking, but it doesn't mean that it won't change. And that's what's the members are gonna have, input to explain maybe a better way of, or a simpler way of doing something. But this product, okay, will not be shown to anyone. This will be a specific product that, number one, I sell directly to worm and gardeners, okay, and you will be able to sell and make 95% of this. I will be teaching you if this works, because now what I want to do is feed essentially the worms, put it into practice, and I'll keep you guys posted. But you get to keep 95% of the profits, okay? And those distributors or those people that are involved with it will learn how to make that. So that in each location, it's self-sufficient. You're basically doing it for the continuation of this model. Okay? So I'm doing this and I'm thinking at the same time. So what does this mean? Well, that means now the market's just expanded. So basically, I'm thinking of even trying to do this in a multi-level, like network marketing method. because it will be by word of mouth. So you want your neighbors to know how to, you know, eliminate their food waste and put their own organic process into play, and quit waiting for the government, because you know that they are not interested. They talk a lot of stuff, but they're not really interested in doing anything. But there are people that are interested in doing something, but it's got to be kind of clean and simple and not confusing. So that's where you come along and explain and direct them essentially to the website, which will show the process on how they can participate. Now, okay, let's talk about that. How do they participate? Well, I think that everyone should start the same way. You know how we essentially, I haven't sold any worms, so I'm not going to do it this way, because I really don't like the whole idea of counting worms and wasting my time. I don't think anyone wants to do that. So what should we do? Well, we should be selling them by like the handful, okay? And it's not, these are my babies and growing, but you can see quite a bit of worms right here. This is what should be sold for $40 to $50 right there, because this will multiply. Okay, so again, it should be mature ones. These ones that I have right here. Want you guys to look. Okay, we got all kinds here, but they're mature. Okay, it should be like a handful. You see that? All these worms? Handful of worms like this, $50. And that way you don't have to sift them out. You don't have to do any of that stuff. They go with the eggs, etc. They go with the bedding. Because you want to do is give them the ecosystem. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing what I'm saying. I'm going to be giving them like that. Some bedding. Not much. Some diatomaceous earth. Some worm chow, they call it. Some... what's the other thing I got? Oyster cells in very small little packages in a very small unit, about like this, and that's called a starter kit. That's it. So their job is to see if they can actually continue with that ecosystem. And that's how you get started. Everyone should get started the same exact way. And that's what I'm trying to do, and that's the process. It's a one structured plan. Everyone's on the same page, meaning the price is the same. And that way everybody knows what they're getting. So now you can introduce your neighbors to a starter kit, which would sell for $40 to $50, including all those little things, because you're going to get them at wholesale. Okay? And so that person, when they see that they can actually take care of the worms and what's involved, they can then crank it up to start applying to the food waste. Okay? And then they'll order some more worms from you. Well, they'll go through Uber Worms, but you're going to, again, get 95% of the order amount. And it goes by word of mouth. Now, one thing I don't want people to do is to backstab. Essentially start taking customers and stuff like that. That's not what I'm after. We're working together. So it's only fair to say, go through them. And on the website, I'll have some kind of process whereby it's directly affiliated to you, so that we know to give you the order. Otherwise, if it's not directly referred, we will pick the person in that particular city. I don't want this to be too long, but anyway, you guys are getting the gist of it. Starter kit, word of mouth. And it should be that there is not like a messy bin or anything like that. They want to be able to do this in a basement, let's say, right, like this, in a little section. So they'll start with something this big, okay? And then what we want to do is move it to something this big, 6 feet long. And these 6 feet long bins, why I say 6 feet, is because one sheet of plywood will do the whole complete bin. And this is I've already got a better way to do this, which is putting the 2x4 up inside here before you share the plastic. I'll end up doing it with these eventually. Okay, and then covering it. And this 2x4 will come flush so that you can actually stack. So on the bottom of these bins, we will have like a 4x4. And the 4x4 will rest and the weight load will go all the way down. There'll be a little gap like this. And you can stack them so that you have 1, 2, 3 or whatever, but you have to be able to move them, which should be used by some kind of, I forget what you call those little lifts, that you can be able to stack them. Okay, now I'm limited here. I can't even move hardly. But you can do one of these and be okay with it. That's it. You don't need any more. Just sell your inventory as you go. But you can move, what I'm trying to say is in a small space, you can do quite a bit. You can put one like this and one underneath. Or you can do the stacking thing and stack them 4 or 5 high. And as long as you're able to move them. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, because this is what I'm sharing. uberworms.com. We're going to be hopefully the biggest vermicomposting company in the world, and yet I've sold 0 worms. Can you believe that? Nonsense. Well, you got to think, is it possible? I do believe so. Just like Uber doesn't own one taxi, but yet they are the biggest taxi service, period. All right. What else did I want to discuss? I mean, if you can wrap your head around what I'm trying to say now, we won't have everyone doing it differently. And it's like, well, you know, this and that, and playing with the worms and wasting their time. This should be able to give you a very simple side income, okay? But the big reward, and I mean really side income, nothing major. Don't think rich, okay? But if you share it with enough people, you might be very busy. However, the great satisfaction or the big reward here is that you're actually doing something very good for the environment, for people, and that is much more rewarding than any dollars and cents that you're going to make. Because there's a little bit of work involved in this, that's for sure. You got to chop paper. You got to shred it down. You know, but this is livestock, guys. This is what you have. You actually have a farm, okay? A lot of people think this, oh, it's little animals, and I mean, like, I can just give them away and I'm done. This is livestock. You have your own little farm. You're raising live stock. And this, there's so many benefits. So let's talk about the benefits. So many things you can get out of this. Real quickly, because I got to end this video. I got a lot of work to do. First and foremost, the worms. Okay? At a premium, because you're worth a premium. No undercutting, you know. Handful of worms, $40 to $50. I'll set the price. Okay? With the ecosystem. So that means that they're going to live, because they're coming with the ecosystem, not a brand new thing, worms dying. Okay? The bedding, the essentials to minimize mites, etc. All these little pests that they might come into. Okay? And then they're basically going to start seeing to see how it all works and if they can work it. Okay? Once they find success in that small realm, then they can get into this realm. This cost me $100 to build. I mean, why doesn't everyone have this? And I'm going to just say this, guys. Composting is not done outside. In other words, what I'm trying to say is you got to make it easy for people. You eat at the table, you dump your garbage in the garbage can. Okay? You don't have a place outside where you take all your stuff outside and compost. You're already making it more difficult. So it should be, that's why I like Bokashi. It's right there. Boom, I dump it. Done. Okay? So it's none of this. The second you make things hard and like, oh yeah, you got to go outside and put this outside, people just won't do it. They get tired. They're lazy. So you got to start with the process of it being accessible. Dinner, plate, Bokashi. Set it aside. Next step. Okay? And so the same thing with the worm bins. The worm bins love our temperatures, guys. So if you're wondering what a worm bin likes, worms, they like our temperature. So the best place to have worms is in your house, where it's air conditioned. Okay? Where it's heated. Okay? And then they're going to be treated well. They're going to live long. Not where it's outside in a hot bin and the sun's hitting it and all of a sudden it overboils and they're trying to get out and escape. These are what you call nightmares. So the worms, number 1. Number 2, castings. Castings, right now what I'm doing here. You can sell your castings. Quart size of this for $10. A 5 gallon pail for $50. This is 5 gallon right here. This one's, or that one's full. I've used so much of it already. That's $50 right there. $10 for a smaller thing. Okay, what else? Well, you can take this much of it, put it through a brewing process in 48 hours. You now can sell worm tea. Now, what's the problem with what's being sold there? Well, they obviously don't understand microbiology. And what's being sold out there in the store and stuff like that is this living thing sealed in a unit that is not living. As soon as you seal it, it's going anaerobic and it won't last. So essentially, when you do worm tea, it should be sold within 24 to 48 hours. So here it goes. Ready? Here's my idea. uberworms.com. Here we go. So now you put a post on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, where you're telling people, educating them in the fact that the compost tea should be utilized within the 48 hours. So you're doing a brew and you will have some compost tea tomorrow, fresh. So then you're going to start taking orders where you can go ahead and they can come and pick up that fresh compost tea that they can pour. You see what I'm saying? You're educating them that these compost teas that are inside bottles, they do not work. This is living. Everything that I got going here, this has got holes so it can breathe. You top something with a bottle, it's done. So it doesn't mean that there ain't beneficial microbes in there, but you've just depleted the full power, strength of them. Many of them have died. So what do you do? See, the reason people don't do this is because it involves too much work. But you have to provide fresh compost tea that is being poured out within 48 hours. That's the Uber way. Exceptional service. exceptional product. Okay. So compost tea is another one. So you got the worms, you got the compost, you got the compost tea. And we're also attaching this fungally dominated food source, which is going to be $10. I would say $10 for a bag like this. And this is living. So I'll keep you guys posted on this, but this is what's going to... This fungi is an animal in of itself, of some sort. It's much more powerful than bacteria in terms of reproduction and ability to consume organic matter. And when the worms eat the fungi, then they poop out fungi or fungally dominated compost. That's worth $10. I don't know how long that's going to last. That's my testing. This is not a rush deal. We're going to put things together so that we can really apply this. And you can see right here, guys, look at how much compost I did while I was talking with you guys, okay? Right in here, everything that's in here is good compost already, but I'm waiting for the worms to break it down even more so that it's this nice product, fluffy. See? That's how everybody should be doing it. Well, everybody in the uberworms.com directory program will be doing it this way so that we're all have the same product, just like McDonald's. I think that's what I'm going to end. I got to continue doing some more. What I'm doing here is decreasing this as much as possible. This is the first bin that I created, okay? So I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, okay? I've got two sets here. I got my worm trap here working. There's some worms on top. I got this little section of some mature worms. This is all babies. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, this is on wheels, is this is all my mature ones that are making babies. I've made some room. I've also put some fresh bedding here, and I'm taking some of those and putting them in there. And then I'm going to take these, get the mature ones out, take everything that's left, put it in here. This will all be babies. This will then come over here, it will be leveled out with this new bedding, and we'll have matures all up in here, creating more cocoons. Babies, matures, creating cocoons every 21 days. We flip them, and here, these are the workhorses, and I can't show you anything else here, because essentially this will be where they're really chewing down foods. And this is the food section here. And you can see they're here. Okay, they're here and they're eating up fungally dominated food that is not wet. It's not super wet. You can see it all here. Okay? They're mowing away on this. Okay? And this is the process. And so if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't liked this, like it. Hope you enjoyed it. Oh, this is my little plants going up. Hope you enjoyed it. And subscribe if you haven't, like it, and we'll see you on the next one.